You transitioned from being the HR manager recently to working full time as the remote IT recruiter. So why don't you tell us a bit more about what was it like? What was the transition? How does it even feel now to be the IT recruiter?
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. Well, at the beginning, I was a bit skeptical. As I thought, can I do this? I was trying to think, do I have the capability? Because I haven't done this before. I've done, I I have recruited, but not tech recruitment, which is a totally different scenario, right? We're talking about is the most challenging versus like you're not hiring for, let's say, a sales manager or accounting officer. You get thousands of CVs, but
Yeah.
in this case, you don't. So it's very different. So you have to understand the demand and supply. So um, for me, it was a bit challenging at the beginning, but then once you know a few things, you know how to deal with it, and you need to be persistent, okay, and to be able to handle, let's say, a rejection or no answer at all. You
Mm.
need to be able to handle that emotionally. Then you can do this
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are lots of rejections in recruitment, right?
a
Candidates
lot.
showing up, clients not responding, colleagues sometimes not responding, right?
That's right. That's right. You need to be patient. I think patience is a must in this job.
So true, so true. Well, sometimes it takes months to close a candidate, right?
True. True.
What was your motivation to transition from having a decent job as the HR manager to working
Yeah.
freelance, remote, on your own?
Yes. Yes. Well, I was on site as HR manager, as you said correctly, but I thought it's much better to do something. Why not try to work from home, which is the trend nowadays now, and you have the flexibility and the freedom to wake up whatever time you want. You
Mm.
don't have to wear your uniform or whatever or suit to go to work. You just sit with your coffee, you put your feet up, and they just relax. Uh, but of course, there are some challenges. If you have a family with kids around crying, that's going to be a challenge. You still need some peace and quiet, and you still need to dedicate and spend hours. It's not just like, okay, I'm at home, I'm not going to work, but you still need to put the effort. But you have the freedom of doing it. You can even work from a mall, from a cafeteria, from the beach on the mountain. So this is the flexibility.
Very cool. And you actually live in the popular tourist destination. So for you, I guess that's a true double.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Yeah, you can just, it's only a half an hour drive. You go to the beach, and providing you can focus, because you still need to focus. You're playing with keywords,
Hmm.
technology terms and stuff, programming languages. You still have to focus. You can't just relax.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So now you transitioned, you are working as the remote tech recruiter. So what is your challenge these days, in general, after the transition? What would you say is the biggest
Yeah.
challenge?
The biggest challenge is the response rate. Let's say but it's a numbers game. The more invites you send, and the more you connect with people, and the more emails on the Facebook, GitHub, LinkedIn, the more you send, the more chances of getting a small number of candidates. Okay, so if somebody gives up early, you will not succeed in this job. But if you insist and you really persevere and you send a significant number of invites, then you will get. So this is the biggest challenge,
Hmm.
because people, tech people, especially nowadays, they can get jobs every day almost. They are basically poached and headhunted from all over the world on a daily basis,
Yeah.
right? It's not like you're an HR job or accountant, or you don't get CV, you don't get emails every day, right? But if you're a tech, yes, you do. So you need to be able to attract them in a nice, the way you write your email, the way you approach them, it has to be attractive, because they are not motivated if the email, if your project that you're working on, that you're offering to them, is not attractive. Of course, money is something that they're attracted, but you have to make it lucrative so they can send their CV. So
Hmm.
this is the biggest challenge, and you need to be aware that you will send hundreds of messages, so you can get, let's say, one or two, but all you need is two, three.
Yeah.
It's enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the commissions are very interesting, right? So all
Yes, yes,
you need
yes.
is literally 1 or 2 placements per month, and it can substitute someone's full-time salary. So it's so true. It's a
Exactly.
numbers game, and I've seen lots of people getting discouraged when they are not seeing the responses just yet, but they would if they reach certain threshold. So
Yes.
just so people have some benchmark, like how many invites or messages are we talking about? 5, 50, 500, 5,000?
It depends on the role, but say as a general rule, no, I wouldn't say in the thousands. I would say you might have to send, let's say, 100, something like that, to get a decent, like say, from 100, let's say 80% would not answer. From this 20%, these 20 candidates, you might get, let's say, 17 saying, I'm not ready for this role. Sorry, I'm not interested. And you will get 3 that will say, oh, sounds good. And they might send their CV, or you even might get 1 CV, or 1 or 2. But then you have to try again the next day. You can't just relax, because if you do, then you would just get 1 CV. 1 CV, the guy might, or the candidate might, let's say, withdraw from the process, or might find another job, because, like I said, they are headhunted daily, so they get offers from all over the world. So the more the better. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, yeah. So it's good to have more eggs in the basket, just
Exactly.
in case the candidates
Just in
pulls
case.
back in the last minute or gets another
Yes.
offer. So that's the more frustrating part of the job. But how do you manage the psychological aspect of the job? Because as you mentioned a while ago, there are lots of rejections. It's a numbers game. Sometimes candidates pull back in the last moment, or the client
Yeah.
withdraws the offer. So do you have any tips on how to manage the expectations or your mindset?
Yes. You have to have in mind the commission is good, like you said, and once you basically you get one, then you establish a flow. Okay. So I think the first one is the most challenging, but once you get the first one, like I said, then it's easier to get a second and third. So once in your mind, you have to understand, like, I'm going to get a rejection, so you expect it. So then it's easier for you to manage your emotional, okay, let's say, so you don't get discouraged and you don't give up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think if you mentally prepare yourself and say, okay, I have to send lots of emails and lots of messages, and I have to put the hours, and I will get X number of rejections. Once you expect that, then you don't have any surprises. Okay, and I think once you're prepared, then you say, okay, if this candidate was, even if the candidate has been sent to the client and they're interviewing, even if they do a second interview, sometimes they don't choose the candidate, or the candidate doesn't want to get the job, or so. Unless you get the offer, you cannot celebrate. You cannot open up the champagnes, the bottle of champagne, if you don't have if the candidate hasn't actually signed. Okay. And however, that's why it's challenging, but at the same time it's rewarding. It's rewarding to see that when the candidate, you help someone find a job, you feel that you took part in this process, that you helped this person, and you have an international exposure. You speak to people from all over the world. You get to know new cultures, people, so it's very fascinating. It's not just you're searching and that's it, but you get to learn a lot of things. You learn, personally, I learned a lot about tech, which I never knew, that it's a new world, right? It's a lot of languages up there, and it's a lot of knowledge to learn, to grasp. It's amazing.
Well, you mentioned so many interesting things now. I don't even know which one to comment on first, because as you know, like the first placement you mentioned, it's so important, and not just for you or the recruiter itself, but for the environment, right? Like now, after the first placement, you can go to your spouse and it's like, hey, this is a real thing. I'm not just sitting here in the corner, but like I really earned some money, and
Sure.
this is a real thing, and I'll place more candidates. And then as you start,
yes, the flow. Yeah, you have to make the flow.
Exactly. Yes. And with the flow, also you are building the talent pool, right? So it's only going to be easier and easier in the future for you and recruiters to place candidates once you have the talent pool. So do you also somehow organize the talent pool now when you screen lots of candidates, you talk to candidates? Do you keep track of who is or was available?
Yes, I do keep track. I use mostly LinkedIn, LinkedIn Recruiter. I find it an amazing search engine. And once you're basically, even though I have some emails, but I still go and connect with them, because with the email you don't have to be a first degree, as you know, but then I go and connect with them also, even though I can send them an email. So by having them on your first degree contacts, then later on, maybe in the future, you will need them again. So that can be, I use that as my database, LinkedIn. And also the CVs I receive, the ones who respond, I have another separate database on my laptop that I have in case I need them to basically hire for the future.
Very cool, very cool. So this is how you are getting more traction.
Right. For two sources, yeah. So mostly LinkedIn. I use my first degree, and I am increasing my contacts, my first degree in tech, basically, because in my past I had first degree contacts from all over the world, but not related to tech. Only a fraction. So now it's the opposite. I'm increasing in the last few months. I've been doing this 5-6 months, so I have increased a lot significantly my first degree contacts. I made them into like tech people, which is important.
Yeah, very cool. At some point, I also ended up with thousands of people in my first connections who were completely unrelated to what I've been working on. They're just sort of connected with anyone, and now I hit the limit of connections. So I guess I'll have to also start removing some so that I can bring.
I'm doing that now. Actually, I reached 30,000, and now I have to, because you cannot go further than 30,000. They have to follow you, or you have to follow them. So at some point you have to remove. You still you can find them as second degree, but you have to remove so that you can replace them. It doesn't sound nice, but at the end of the day, this is the business.
Exactly.
You have to treat it that way.
Of course. You use LinkedIn as the business and working tool, so you can do whatever is needed in this sense. So it's good to think about it this strategically as you described. That's very cool. Okay, so you transitioned. You are now working. You are getting placements. So what's the next thing for you? You already mentioned you are learning a lot about tech. You are meeting people from all over the world, so it looks like a dream job. So what would you say is the next big thing for you?
The next big thing, I say, the learning never stops in tech. I think that's a basic for me. Even if you come from a technical background, you still need to learn a lot. But myself, I am not from a technical background, and so the learning is going to continue. That's one. Because without the knowledge, you cannot find people. You need to train your mind and to understand what's going on, what's front end, what's back end, what's full stack, and you need to understand the programming languages. If you don't do that, then you can't progress. So I would continue do the learning, and then from then on to continue placing and place even more. Like now I'm placing, let's say, one every 3 months. Let's say. So my goal is to place one a month, and then why not 2 a month?
2 a month,
And the way to do that is be more consistent, send more emails, and as you learn, you gain more experience based on my personal experience. You don't have to send, let's say, hundreds of emails. You can send less, and because you know exactly what you're looking for. So you search as in like a very confined search and specific search. And if you don't get a response in the next 2 days, then maybe it's like telling you have to move on to another position. Don't stay on that role, because some roles you will get CVs faster, and some you will get slower. It would take time. So don't stay on one role for many days.
Cool. And would you also like to establish a team around you in the future? Some sourcers or some people who would help you with development?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is what I've been doing my whole life. I always had a team, so I love having a team and teaching them and training them. Uh, it's very interesting for me, yes, to be able to have a team and to train them and to
Awesome.
see the fruits from this training. Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Well, cool, cool. It's just so inspiring to see your transition and the new career ahead of you. So, is there anything before we wrap it up that you would like to advise to anyone who is transitioning to IT recruitment like you are?
Yes, my advice is first to do some educate yourself on what is tech, what are tech positions, because it's very different from any other industry sector. So I would advise them to learn a lot, and then to teach yourself how to be emotionally, let's say, to understand that you're going to receive a lot of rejections, and you will get a small number of positive notes, but from the positive notes you can make good money,
Mhm.
providing you are consistent and you don't give up. So
Awesome, awesome.
I think it's something interesting for me because it's a new world. Uh, it's a lot of stuff that I have learned in these few months.
Hmm. Very cool that you mentioned the psychological aspect of it because it's often neglected.
Yes,
People focus on the hard skills, but this is what can make you or break you eventually in
it
the way.
can, it can, especially in this field.
Yeah, awesome.
It can.
Cool, wonderful. So thanks a lot for all the insights and
My
sharing
pleasure.
transition.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much for your time too.
Thank you. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.